August 1996, Mike Barnes, Chris Dawson and Mark Faiers prepare for the first shoot of their ultra-low-budget feature film, Fatigue. It's a journey none of them realised would take quite so long and prove such a challenge. And they didn't get off to the best of starts.
Oh dear.
Crunched into a bird at some traffic lights. So that's that.
Hmm? 5 years! 5 years!
The lads had a very short pre-production period, only a few weeks. During this time they honed down the script, prepared storyboards, practiced dialogue.
How do you find it?
That's charm.
Just delivery.
Checked out various locations.
This is why we're here.
Resin cleaner.
Built film winding devices.
This is my black bag.
The black bag, oh shit.
Dustbin liner.
Okay.
And props.
So that's the plate head.
And tested special effects with varying degrees of success.
Headshot.
Got it the wrong way, man.
Fuck the dummy up, bro. It ain't really working, is it?
Come on, you fucker. Oh, there's a lot of bloody blood in it. Still ain't coming out, you bastards!
Stop Vinny, eat your heart. We're never gonna make this film. Is that the comment?
They also assembled the cast and crew. Fatigue's first shoot took place at Cardiff's annual fair.
The first fairground shoot was an inspired idea by Chris. He thought, it would have production value. We shot this chase through a live fairground. So he always thought, it was a fantastic idea, and that was written into the script quite quickly. I'd seen a film like Easy Rider, and they'd shot a bit in that, and they had no crew. There was a couple of camera people in the cast, and they intermingled. So I thought we could do that. It turned out that we could.
This is the first shoot we did for Fatigue. All we had was this clockwork bow legs.
Obviously, we didn't have any permission to film or anything, so we're running around like lunatics.
We were going through the fair shooting, it seemed to be going okay.
They had numerous amounts of takes with the running scenes, and I always caught Marky up. I had to slow down. I find it quite realistic chasing Marky and wanting to stove his head in. But, reality kicked in.
We thought we'd had a really successful day, but it turns out that during the loading of the camera, one of the actual pressure plate that held the film down had been put back in the camera as my fault.
We weren't sure how much footage was going to be in focus or out of focus, and it wasn't until we got the rushes back that we realised how little was usable.
They were all rubbish. It didn't come out very well at all.
It was very grainy and it just wasn't up to scratch. We thought we'd got half the shots, but we didn't finish it off, so we would have to go back the following year, which was a bit of a pain, but it was just, time wasn't on our side.
Chris pleaded with his girlfriend Sian to let them take over her front room as Mitchell Willow's flat.
We said, can we borrow your front room for a week or 2 weeks? And they reluctantly agreed. I'm sure they regret it to this day.
Little did we know that it would take a couple of months to shoot on and off. Mark and Chris ended up art directing the whole place.
Basically, we turned the place into a squat. It was lit by strobes, and I'd done these paintings, sort of very depressing paintings, which were plastered all over the walls.
Turning it into the shithole that is Mitchell Willow's flat, and they put up with it. When you started doing the filming, you know in places it might be quite hard to actually shoot, but you don't really realise how hard it's going to be if you've got no crew. A lot of times I felt like I was doing the job of about 6 people, so I was doing the camera assisting, the loading of the camera, putting the lights up, getting the exposure, doing the camera, making sure I've got the actors in there, being a director, make sure I've got the performances as well. Up until the shooting point, Mark and Chris have all organised everything, art directed it, but once it's actually shooting, the actors. So if you've got a crew of 1, which is me, then it suddenly becomes like really exhausting because you physically having to move everything about and also mentally having to glue all the shots together as well.
It's like everything's going fine and you're all there sort of shoot, and then me and Chris would think, hang about, something's changed, something's going on here, and we'd look at each other and Mike would be sort of, normally it'd be, oh, yeah, all right, it'd suddenly be very quiet and you'd say, all right Mike, you sort of, be like, something's up here, the pasty monster's coming out.
I think he needed his sugar levels, and if he was working in hot lights, he got dehydrated, he just got so tired, he needed something quickly, and it always seemed to be a pasty.
We often forgot about dinner time or just went out and popped out and got a Kit Kat or a pasty.
But it was the way it suddenly happened, it was just like that.
So when he said pasty, we knew we were in trouble. We'd probably just keep our heads down and just get on with it.
Yeah, it came out a few times, it's quite funny looking back now, but it wasn't so funny at the time. You're just like, oh shit, what have we done?
So you just carry on working and gradually get more and more tired. I guess I got a bit frustrated with things and turned into the pasty monster, which I guess means someone who's very hungry and very exhausted and very tired and pissed off.
There was a shootout with Ross and Alan's characters coming to get my character.
Mark met Ross, a job he was doing sometime, and Ross came back in, he was an explosive expert. He'd never done bullet squibs before.
We were all a bit reluctant to have squibs on ourselves, so that's why we said to Ross, oh, do you want to be in the film, do you want to act? And he said, yeah, okay, so he tried them out on himself first.
He ordered some little plastic cartridge explosives for us, and onto those he attached small bags of tomato ketchup with a mixture that Mark put together for the blood.
Blew up, sprayed blood all over the walls very nicely.
Hey! Bloody hell, check it out!
I think we've got to do a bit of
Paint job.
We realised, looked round at the wall, and in the wall there was a big chunk missing out of the concrete wall.
There's a bullet hole.
Yeah, that's a bit of plaster work as well.
What's that?
That's a squib that hit that, isn't it?
They actually flew out and embedded themselves into the wall. They've still got the holes in it. They've got one in the ceiling, I think, and one in the wall.
behind some of the posters now, you can still see big chunks out of the wall.
We're all a little bit concerned because if one of them had flown out and hit someone in the eye, it obviously would have done quite a bit of damage.
Killed you if they'd gone through your eyeball or something, which was quite likely.
We're very lucky that it didn't actually shoot off and obviously take someone's eye out. Added to the excitement of it. Health and safety would have had us on that one.
Yeah. Are you alright?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Alan also acted. He was always available and more than happy to run around firing a gun, getting covered in fake blood, choked to death and hit over the head with a TV.
That wasn't any good then, was it?
No, it's great. It's great.
Really?
Yeah, really good.
So I thought
We're gonna do little close-ups of you doing it.
Right, yeah.
Stuff.
I thought that was a couple.
One of the main problems the boys encountered was the blank gun jamming.
Action. Shit, jam. Jam.
On the last day of shooting, Mark attempted to deafen everyone. Mike had loaded the gun, and as usual, it had jammed. Mark tried to get a second bullet in the chamber when it already had one in.
So what's happened here, Mark?
You what? I'm a bit deaf.
Why?
Could have been a Brandon Lee experience. I rather stupidly was farting about with a gun and it went off and blew up into 3 little bits. Hell of a bang and my ears do not feel too
Still
good.
knackered.
They're ringing quite a lot. It's just lighter than I thought. It's tricky.
They had managed to complete almost all the scenes in Mitchell's flat, including the bathroom, which they covered with fake blood and put coffee and various other substances over the walls and down the toilet. The kitchen was also used. Mark art directed this by emptying the contents of the dustbin all on the floor. He spread rubbish and sour milk over every available surface. The household hadn't realised what they had agreed to when they said the lads could use their flat, and they would return. The other major scene filmed during the shoot was the weir. 6 hours spent in the River Taff's freezing water, filming a fight scene between Mitchell and Eddie.
You know, I'd written in the script that the characters rush across the weir and they fight on the other side of the weir on some rocks. When you write something, it's really easy to write, but you don't realise what's involved. And although that weir scene only lasted about 3 or 4 minutes on screen, it took like about 6 hours to shoot, probably.
Most of that day, Mark and I spent in the water.
It was very cold, and we kept having to do it. Me and Chris would run across the weir.
That river's notoriously known as being polluted for half of the year, but Mark was submerged in it for a couple of hours.
And a lot of the time we were running back and forwards across it.
Because you couldn't see, there were all these big rocks underneath, and one of us would fall over, and invariably one of us would just keep tripping up.
And so getting tighter and tighter, wetter and wetter, colder and colder.
I think we maybe managed it on one take, where it was probably the one used in the film, where it actually was a clean take, but both of us were just falling and kept falling over. It was probably very amusing if you're watching it, but bloody hell, we were bruised to shit the day after.
Those guys were like freezing cold. I was alright, I was fine, I was just doing the camera.
I had to duck Mark's head under the water quite a few times, and each time it was like a dread. It's like, no.
Chris was drowning me, and Mike kept saying to me, he goes, oh, just one more, Mark, just one more, and you just sort of start to get used to being warm, and then you'd be plunged right under, and the water would just go up your back, and it was freezing.
It wasn't the most pleasant thing to do.
When we were doing the bricking, Chris kept turning his head the wrong way, because Mike was saying, go across, and we'll be able to, it'll work well. And I was going that way with the brick, and Chris's head was turning that way, and if you see the rushes, there's some terrible ones, and it's a very good edit job to get away with the footage that we had there. There was some awful stuff. We had this polystyrene brick with the fake blood on, and I was hitting it on Chris's head. It looked like a potato print. It looked terrible. It was just... But between all these dodgy takes, there were 3 or 4, I think, which probably all made it to the final cut, which actually looked quite good. It's amazing, because this is one scene where people are like, oh, that's a bit over the top, lads. You just don't see it, because all I see when I look at that is, the blood colour's not very good on that. We should have put blood in his teeth a bit more, we messed up there. But loads of people going, that bit was just too much, it's too strong. So quite pleasing that you get that reaction, because when we show the rushes, if people see it, they'll just not believe how that looks.
And at the end of it, we had to do a bit of dialogue, and Mike suggested that we wrap and finish and come back another day. The thought of doing that was pretty horrible in case we had to go in the water again.
The realism, Chris and Mark decided that they preferred to do it after fight through the weir.
And we thought, we're not actors, we felt really tired and fatigued at the time, and if we do it now, it would probably be more realistic.
And it probably added, it made it seem a lot more convincing. I think we got it in one take, because me and Chris thought, oh no, we're going to be here hours now doing this dialogue, we're going to get pneumonia.
Those two were like, they were freezing for about 3 hours. You realise how dedicated everyone was to it, because everyone was prepared to sort of chuck themselves in at the deep end, literally.
November 1996, and disaster strikes again.
We've had a latest little setback, and this is it.
Big setback. Playing football.
Oh, there we go.
It's starting to smell now. No, out of action.
It wasn't all bad news though. Mark's friend wrote an article for the magazine Programme News. It appeared in December's issue and proved vital for getting them the free loan of equipment. Mark rang various companies asking if they would lend them equipment. Panavision and Media Film Services agreed. They ended up using Panavision on 4 separate occasions. It also gave them time to organise locations and plan future shoots. January 27th until February the 9th, 1997 was the second major shoot. The trio used equipment from Panavision for the first time. The first scene shot was the cafe. The lads had asked several cafe owners about the possibility of using it as a location. All said they would normally be closed, so wanted paying between £50 to £100, which the boys couldn't afford. Luckily, the Café Alba said yes. So on a wet Sunday morning, the cast and crew, which once again consists of Sean's housemates, Chris Fozzie Forster and Chris Buxton, turned up and shot the cafe scenes. It was a long shoot, but by the end of the day, all the footage needed was in the can. The trio had a number of scenes involving shots in cars. Various car mounts were needed. They got the free loan of a limpet mount from Video Film and Grip, which was used on both Mark and Brendan's cars. Brendan was Mark and Mike's landlord.
My left sock.
The three had to pay for the side mount, but when they returned it in one piece, VFG gave them a free roll of film, which would have cost double the higher price. Mike also shot Chris and Mark outside the multi-storey car park, which should have been very quick and easy to film, but the local loony seemed curious and interested in the camera. This is one of the joys of shooting guerrilla style. With no crew and security, even the simple shots become difficult and time-consuming.
Right, let's try it again. Waxing.
Mike wanted to shoot a robbery scene in an off-licence. He thought it would be a great location and add production value to the film. He wanted to use the local off-licence because it had an alcove section where the Mitchell character could hide. They asked and the owner agreed. He said they could use the location as long as they filmed in the morning and were out by 11 AM. This involved early starts on 2 days. They managed to convince 3 friends after bribing them with the offer of free beer. Martin, Caleb and Chris begrudgingly agreed.
Over the fucking top! Don't fucking... Oh, fine, okay, shit! Over the top! Alright!
Martin was very keen to be the lead robber, insisting he wanted the gun and to kill Chris. He was very enthusiastic, getting right into character. Even during rehearsals he kept grabbing Chris's new top, yanking it violently.
Money! Don't get your fucking money!
Mike filmed dozens of takes, getting the attack from every possible angle, so Chris's top was really stretched.
All the fucking money now.
The dialogue in the scene was somewhat limited and very crude.
Fuck her! Fuck her! Fuck her!
Fuck it.
Fuck's sake! Fucking bite!
Take fucking money.
Don't fucking bite it! Don't fucking bite! Don't fucking bite! Fuck's sake!
The recording equipment was quite elaborate for this shoot. It was a combination of an old 4-track, a DAT recorder and a flatbed mic. It worked. In fact, it worked better than the Nagra, which always went out of sync with the camera. This is one of the few scenes they didn't have to redub.
Action.
Fuck's sake! Oh, fuck. Oh god, I don't think we got that. That's a shame. He just tripped over my heart.
The first visit to the wind farm took place during this shoot, and professional actor Richard Harrington said he would give them a day for free.
The first wind farm shoot, we took Richard Harrington and Simon Spree up to this fantastic location that Mark thought of. We had Richard Harrington there, who was an actor who's done quite a few bits and pieces on television. Really excited that he'd agreed to actually do this little cameo role, which appears quite early on in the film. There's a lot of dialogue in it, so we knew we had to get someone who could pull it off.
Richard's methods are quite method. I can remember when we were walking up to do some of those scenes, he was, clipping the back of my heels and calling me a cunt after every word and, really trying to wind me up. I appreciate it really, and hindsight, but when, like I say, I'm not an actor and I've never acted, and I'm sure it happens all the time with, professional actors, but when somebody just starts sort of like abusing you and irritating you for no apparent reason, it is a bit like, what's going on here?
He had loads of takes, like me, Chris, Simon, everyone else would get maybe 1 or 2 takes if we were lucky. I don't know how many he had.
Richard had hundreds.
I was sort of biting my lip thinking, Jesus, this is going to cost a fortune, he may be doing it for free, but these professionals, I'd have thought they'd get it in 1 or 2, 3 takes.
You realise that each take you're doing is getting better and better. Because I'm sure that the guys won't mind me saying, because they weren't actors, performance didn't get any bigger or stuff like that, but with Richard he did it differently, or did it slightly bigger, and then it got even bigger and I was getting more and more excited, so consequently I shot way too much film on that.
There's a couple of scenes with Richard I would have liked to have done a little bit differently. Well, I would have liked to add a kind of more psychotic gay lover to it, actually. There's a scene right at the end where I'm looking at Richard, and when I've looked at it before, I think, you know, what I should have done is I should have snogged him then, and then shot him in the head. I think it would have worked.
The final shoot during this period was possibly the most intense of the entire film. It took place in a cold, windy night at a desolate waste ground on the outskirts of Barry, the infamous scrapyard shoot. Alan knew a scrapyard owner who would let them use it for £50 and throw in a car they could blow up.
We said it would take a long time, and this must have gone in one ear and come out the other.
The scrapyard owners never had anything to do with film before, so I think he imagined it was going to take about half an hour.
They thought we'd take about 10 minutes to shoot this scene, I think.
Straight away the owner was sort of saying, "Oh, you'll be done pretty soon, won't you?" We thought he was joking. We were like, "Yeah, it's funny, well, we've got to wait till it gets dark yet." And he was like,
Because the scene needed to be set at night.
I swear we told him it was going to be a night shoot.
We weren't going to start shooting until it was dark, and he kept asking us, "How long is it going to be?" Another half hour.
So started setting up, got it set up, and all the time he's sort of going, "You're going to be long yet? You're going to be long yet?"
It hadn't even got dark yet.
Ian, who was in the scene as well, just couldn't be found, and Mark went off looking for him.
I said, right, I better go back to Cardiff and try and get hold of Ian.
Meantime, scrapyard owners getting really impatient.
I was frantically ringing Ian up sort of every half hour, thinking, where the hell is he?
Apparently Mark was at home stressing out because he hadn't arrived.
Scrapyard owner is pacing up and down. He's really irritated. He really wants to get to the pub.
To appease him, I think Mike and Chris just gave him the blank gun, and he was shooting probably thousands of blanks off.
So eventually, after many hours, we do start shooting.
Started doing the cutaways that I knew would cut into Ian's character later. Ian wasn't on set yet.
Action!
Any shot they could do without Ian in, they were doing it. But of course they couldn't do like the car blowing up or anything, because that would obviously ruin the whole shoot for continuity purposes.
So I shot all my side of it, so Mike's just filming me with no one on the other side, so we can get something done.
Eventually I got hold of Ian because I was getting quite stressed about this, and God knows how stressed Mike and Chris and Ross were getting, probably even more so.
This guy is getting really pissed off now.
Eventually Ian turns up, so we shoot the reverse of that with Ian in the scene.
And we got Brendan as well.
The landlord loves a bit of it.
Mine and Mike's landlord at the time, and he's the guy with the sack over his head who gets shot. You don't get many landlords willing to do that, I wouldn't have thought. Also the Mercedes is his.
So it takes another hour to shoot the scene. While all this was going on, the actual scrapyard owner was getting more and more fret and more stressed because he couldn't escape to go to the pub.
The guy all the time was saying, "Are you nearly finished yet? Are you nearly finished yet?" And we were going, "Oh God, no, we're not nearly finished yet. We better just try and move this thing on quicker."
I have this part where Eddie Heaver shoots the windscreen, shoots at someone through the windscreen, which ignites the car, and we thought we'd break the glass with a catapult or throwing a stone really hard. A bit naive, really.
The scrapyard owner came up trumps.
Came out with a shotgun. Just came out of just holding a shotgun, and I started to get a bit worried here.
First we were like, oh shit, because I think we told him how much the camera was worth and that, and he could have just turned on us and said, "Right lads, I'm having this." We'd have gone, "Yeah, take it away, there's nothing we can do about it."
Anyway, we did shots of the windscreen exploding. He shot the windscreen for us 3 times. He was really accurate and it's great. I thought, yeah, fantastic. He's sort of back with us. He's like enthusiastic about it again. But we had a few more shots to do, like reaction shots and stuff. And as soon as he sort of found that out, he sort of went a bit funny and started loading the gun and walking around the scrapyard shooting the cars.
Blasting away at all the cars in the car park. You know, we're trying to do dialogue stuff and there'd be this in the background.
We were actually shooting the film, trying to do the acting, and in the background there's all this gunfire going on.
We're getting quite tense now because he's getting really impatient about missing his drinking time, and he's shooting this shotgun, and we're thinking, come on, we just want to get this finished now. And
so a few shots missing of Chris and Ian sort of in the flames and through the flames, and we just thought, sod it, we're going to have to leave this because the guy's getting really impatient. I think it was about 10 o'clock or 10:30, and you know, we didn't have much drinking time left.
We got to the final shot of Ross blowing up the car.
Now! Ross, that's fucking beautiful!
And it couldn't happen, you know, quick enough for me.
Eventually, we do blow up the car, we do put it out.
helped us put the car out. He was really keen to do that.
And we escaped without dying or getting shot.
And that was possibly the most pressurised shoot of the whole film.
It was mayhem, it was anarchy, it was frightening. It was like I've never been so worried shooting anything ever. I'm not that worried again.
The third major shoot took place between February and March 1997. The scenes shot during this period included the Hippo Club, which was used on 3 separate occasions.
Myself and a couple of mates had done a lot of work in the Hippo Club, like Chuck, who's in the film, had painted all the club.
Well, the Hippo Club was always in the script because Mark thought he could always get that location.
I was always confident, and I'd said to him, we're making a film, can we shoot in the club? And he'd said yes, no problem. We got the club. The first shoot was a midweek one, and it was on the stairs.
Action.
It's a bit of a shootout.
We got Reese, who was the bouncer. He was really keen to be in the film. And then we got another guy, Sav, do it as well, and he's got a really good face, looks really good. So again, we used our mates who had borrowed their house, and we said, come on, be extras. So we used these friends again who we basically really did abuse quite a lot over the years.
Lovely job,
It went very smoothly. The main problem was the gun kept jamming, but other than that, the shoot went pretty well.
Action! Bang! That's the one.
To actually have a gunfight across a nightclub, to actually pay for that in real terms would have been astronomical. But we, thankfully, through Mark having worked there before, we were able to gain access during the day.
Metal Mike is the guy who was the cleaner and one of the DJs there. He lived in the club at the time, and I knew we were going to have to get him up, and I knew from working in there that he was very difficult to get up. So me and Chris went there early on in the morning, just ringing on the doorbell for quite a long time, and we knew we were going to get a big old earful from Metal Mike. Lo and behold, Mike came, "What the fuck's going on, you fucking bastards? It's bloody 9 o'clock in the morning." And he was giving us all a big mouth. Yeah, Pete said we could come in and use it. What fucking hell, he didn't tell me. He was so sorry, mate, we can't help it. And once the doors open, we're sort of in there like, fucking hell, great, we're in. For me, it was the most worrying shoot of the lot, because I really felt I'd had to organise this shoot, and I put adverts up for extras in the colleges and asked a lot of people, would they be extras, and those people saying, yeah, we'll come. We explained we wouldn't be able to pay them and all this sort of thing, and I was really quite concerned that we were going to get absolutely nobody turning up.
I think a lot of people thought it was a bigger shoot than what it was, so we got quite a few extras.
Possibly 25, 30 people there.
Coming along wanting to be stars, only to find out that there was like 3 or 4 of us, 1 packet of biscuits, a kettle and some tea bags, and that was the old catering thing.
We decided to get some crew.
And we had a guy in who was doing the club lights and the smoke, Ross Allen in as well.
We got Chris Buxton on doing first AD, who just shouted out commands after I whispered them. That really helped the shoot go, and it was a real luxury actually having a crew. Having said that, we were still dollying using a wheelchair. The additional lighting was just done with 2 red heads and gels.
So we managed to make it look quite a full club.
We had quite a few deaths to film, a lot of squibs going off, and I think we filmed 30 people getting hit.
I remember Mike having a brief panic attack. I think it was because of the appalling acting of a lot of people in their attempts to die.
After a whole day of a playback of some dance tune that they don't like and having to do a fake dance to it, they were starting to get a bit, oh no, why did I come here?
And they're sitting around doing nothing for the vast majority of the time. It is very boring work being an extra, so...
Slowly started to disappear, so we're getting less and less people there. So we're putting hoods on us and pretending we're in there. We still didn't get all the shots we needed, so we had to come back the following week. We got hardly any extras because everyone had learned from their mistakes before, even our mates.
People sort of said, oh no, I can't make it, sorry. And they were like, I think maybe 5 or 6 extras plus me, Mike and Chris as the crew, and we were just like, shit, we're not going to be able to do this is a nightmare.
So we're starting to get a bit worried. We've got the club booked out just when we're getting really despondent and
panicky and pissed off about that. And then Sophie Corrington turned up from college with maybe 6 or 7 college friends,
and which actually was really good because we hadn't seen a lot of the faces before, and they padded out the scene quite nicely.
We just shoot very, very close, fill the place with smoke, and we hopefully can get away with it.
I kind of shot everything that was on the storyboards. We just kind of thought, let's just shoot everyone getting hit.
There's some awful stuff, awful death scenes in that one. Some absolute clangers. There are a couple of people who are quite good.
The most convincing deaths would actually make it into the film.
I don't know what we were thinking where we said, yeah, Mike, you get shot, because his character's quite a big part.
I'd probably take the biscuit as the worst person getting shot.
Didn't make the final edit, that one.
So that wasn't part of the film at all, and hopefully it won't be part of this documentary.
The next shoot was the fairground fight between Mitchell and Trevan.
The fight scene between Mitchell and Trevan was actually done in a completely different location from the fairground.
This was done in Chris's back garden.
To actually stage that fight close to fairground would have attracted a lot of unwanted attention and would probably have taken ages as well.
That was a freezing cold night.
It was a really funny shoot to do because Simon just went for it big time.
Marky claims that I did hit him. Actually, made physical contact. I would debate that.
So he kept punching me for real, and he was going, "Come on, I want it to look authentic," and he was choking me as well. I was really leaning in. It probably looked great, but bloody hurt. And he caught me at least 2 or 3 times. He punched me in the face.
Well, Marky did get a bit physical after I did. It was just a tap. It was nothing.
I got my revenge though. I grabbed him, and as I was pushing him down, I kept pulling his chest hair accidentally, and he was complaining big time.
He was just trying to pull my chest hair out. The man's an animal.
"Oh, Marky, you're pulling my chest hair." I was going, "What? You were punching me in the face."
I didn't punch him.
We did the corkscrew stab, which was funny because Simon there going, "Ah!" and then Fozzie was behind him with this squeezing this washing up liquid bottle.
Doing the blood coming out of his neck.
And as he came forward, you could see Fozzie behind pumping away on this washing up liquid bottle. We just thought, Christ knows what this is going to look like when it comes out. As it turned out, it looks pretty good.
They did want to actually destroy a couple of my prize shirts. I didn't have any of that.
And so I had to make a shirt. I bought a white one from a charity shop, and then I had to draw on all the design and get some blue ink and glue it all in. And I was well chuffed actually, because you don't notice at all.
Because of the climate being so cold, the death pallor I think was quite convincing in that.
It seemed to drain the colour out of his face because it was so cold, and it looks like he is actually sort of dying and dead in the final shot, so it looked really good.
I remember that night as hilarious, really, but I think the 2 guys that were in it remember it as being really, really cold. But I really enjoyed that one because there was blood everywhere.
Mark also managed to secure the use of a multi-storey car park in Newport. It took place on a sunny Sunday.
So we had the multi-storey car park, brilliant location. We had a bit of a crew that day as well, I remember that. That was I remember enjoying that day because I didn't have to do much crewing at all on that one. We had Chris Foster, Chris Buxton, Ross was just dedicated crew, and Mike. So those 4 were just doing the crewing, and then myself, Chris Dawson, Simon, Andy and Alan were just sort of acting, and then we could crew as well. So we did actually have quite a big crew for that one. That was one of the biggest crews.
Because we couldn't get a power supply, we need the squib bullet holes. So I tapped into the light power and drilling holes in the car park. The car park bloke, he didn't actually know about this, but it's got holes in anyway, so it doesn't really matter though.
So the squibs are going to be in the wall?
Yeah, and then Andy here's going to get a couple in the chest. Side, probably one in the gut, and Chris one in the shoulder. I thought I was getting one in the shoulder. Oh, it could be shoulder. Might as well have a gut wound now.
Yeah, that might kill me.
Everyone, your belt's there, isn't it? Your knife. It's that yeah.
So where's the blood come from?
You still
Just
get
a
a bit,
nasty
yeah. Just still would rebound, but it's sort of gone up. It's a movie, isn't it? So, what about the leg? I see the shitty trousers there.
There was no permission to film there, and some of the special effects would be deemed vandalism, I think.
Hello. That's connected to the master wiring.
I did a few tests, and I think one was poor, but one was brilliant.
Fucking hell.
By the time it came to the actual shoot, they worked really well.
Action!
Did it hurt?
No, didn't feel a thing.
That's good.
It is tomato sauce though, isn't it?
Tomato sauce and a bit of the fake blood in there.
Blew the shirt open there.
In that sequence, there's a lot of gunfire going off. We could only afford one blank gun. Each character throughout the whole film just uses the same gun.
Go for your gun right at the back.
Sometimes Mark questioned Mike's directing.
There were times I thought, does he know what he's doing here? He was shooting and I was like, have you got that at normal speed as well? Because they're shooting a lot of slow-mo of all the gunshots and stuff. So have you got that? No, yeah, I got that. Have you got this shot? Have you got that? I'm probably really annoying him, but I just thought, if I don't say it and then we're driving home and he goes, oh damn, I didn't get that shot. Oh, I should have got it. I wish one of you lot said something. Maybe it's if I was in his position, I'd want people maybe saying, just reminding me of stuff.
Andy was next on the hit list. When he was shot, he had to drop a doctor's bag from the roof of the car park.
Action!
Chris Buxton had the dubious honour of running up and down the stairs to retrieve it each time.
Groceries.
Saucy.
That looks quite good. You're right.
Yeah, he's got sauce going down my trousers.
The police made an appearance towards the end of the shoot. They had received numerous phone calls from the public saying that they could hear gunshots coming from the car park.
We thought we'd get that scene done all in a day. It turns out that we didn't.
We had to go back the following day to finish off. So on the first day, glorious sunshine. Second day, pissing it down with rain. Just hammering it.
Yeah. The rain.
Kind of regretted not starting earlier the day before.
Didn't have such a big crew the following day. A lot of people sort of said, oh no, we can't help you out. So the crew basically consisted of Mike and the three actors involved, which was Simon, myself and Chris.
That was the day that we decided to do the lift scene. So we did shoot something else that day.
1 minute it'd be nice and sunny, and next it'd be showery, and then sunny. We managed to get in between. We got little bits stuff done with Chris shooting.
Hey up, the sun's out!
But it's just very frustrating, you know, trying to complete this shoot and not being able to get it done because of the weather, and knowing we were going to have to come back on at least one more time, and as it turned out it was probably a couple more times.
Look, we're all going a bit mad.
Watch it. Mars bar.
Yeah.
And Coke.
Yeah.
And your particular flavour crisp.
Yeah, as long as they're not salt and vinegar.
Not salt and vinegar.
Yeah. This is lunch break. So it's supposed to be a sunny day, and well, it's not. As you see, we have major continuity problems. We're sort of stopping every 10 minutes really for this rain. I'm waiting for the sun to come out, but I'm worried about anything matching, like the concrete paving stones in the background. They've changed colour because of the wet. The sky's a different colour. It's been a lot more windy today, but I mean, this is like pretty much our third attempt at getting the scene completed, and there comes a point where you have to say, okay, let's just shoot it and see what the rushes look like, and if we can get away with it, we can get away with it. I say patience is a virtue, and yeah, they're probably right, because I haven't got a lot of it.
May 1997. Many of the scenes shot during this period involved finishing off scenes that weren't completed earlier. Unfortunately, another injury occurs.
Last night, I slipped up on lettuce leaf or banana skin or something, trying to kick an orange at horseman, and slipped up and landed on my head doing this. So continuity wise, could be a bit of a fuck up.
How was the footy? Yeah.
I hurt my leg a bit and I thought, right, I want to go home now, I've had enough. But we were playing on because it was dead close, it was 12 all or something. Petey Privy, renowned for his toe punting, toe punted this ball, smacked me in the arm, bent it, all funny, hurt like a bitch. Went to hospital, broke my wrist. Second injury in a week to really screw up the continuity of the film. It's already screwed up quite a lot anyway, but this just adds fuel to the fire.
Yeah, we had to go back to the Hippo as well also at this time. We had to try and get this fight sequence between me and Reese done. We went in there at, I think it was about 8 o'clock and the club was opening at 9, so we had to do this fight really, really quick. Reese was wanting to do all this technical fight scene. I was just, yeah, whatever. I wasn't really listening to where he was saying he was going to be punching me and how I was to react. I just thought, shit, we've got to move this really quickly. So, didn't listen to him, consequently he kept smacking my plaster. It was quite painful, throwing me back all over the place and hitting the plaster.
I think it was by accident, but I'm not sure.
And we got it finished. We came to the final shots with the squibs, and the idea was that they'd be shot from behind and these squibs would spurt blood all over the sort of lens of the camera, and it'd be, you know, a cool shot, a good edit point. And we did the squibs and they didn't work out right, and we were all really disappointed. We were saying, like, Ross was going, oh god, we're going to have to come back and do them again. And as it turned out, they looked, I don't know if they looked particularly accurate how a gunshot would look if someone was getting shot, but they looked really good. It really worked well, got the whole shirt lights up. Also on this night, we went in, myself and Mike went back later on and shot with the Bolex. We shot me walking to the entrance of the club, and on the dance floor, my POV shots. Amazingly, that all cuts in fine. I think that was our final Hippo shoot, thankfully. That was it. There's about 4 shoots in all with the Hippo Club. The scrapyard completion shots, Eddie in flames, we had to do those at a later date in the back garden. And they were the shots we missed at the scrapyard because the owner was getting a bit irate. We put a railing out, we had some old curtains and some lighter fluid and just shot through that.
The flames was done with the gel, just waving the hands in front to give that flicker effect. So there's lots of little patch-up jobs which thankfully people don't notice.
We then went back to the multi-storey car park for doing the Alan and Mitchell stalk. I hit him with the hammer. Yeah, and also some shots of Trevan when he's on the ground after he's been shot. I had a scar and a cast on, continuity-wise, that was a major problem. And Simon had his hair all cut off. We said don't cut your hair, but I suppose it was probably over a year later. But luckily his character had greased back hair, so it wasn't too bad. When it's greased back you don't really notice it.
Mike had placed an advert in the stage advertising for 2 parts, Rachel and Wonside, the big boss. They received hundreds of replies and decided to use Welsh actor Keith Dixie Dickinson.
Keith came along and I don't know what he was expecting, because I'm sure he thought it was going to be a slightly bigger budget film than it was. We were in this little room in Chapter that we'd hired for 30 quid. I think we'd set decorated it the day before. Myself and Chris and Mike had gone in there, sorted it all out, and got there, and he must have thought, what the hell is this?
He's greeted by the cast, crew, the stars, the cameraman, the sound person, the special effects, everyone, and it's 3 of us.
We had this constant thing where we get like professional actors in for a day or an hour or half a day, and they'd be constantly surprised that there was no food, there was no crew.
So we buy him a meal to sweeten him up a bit.
We paid him a tenner, I think, and that was for his petrol. I don't think that covered his trip.
And he must have thought, what have I let myself in for?
Bang!
I'm going to be here all day with these no-hopers.
I've been very reasonable considering the inconvenience you've caused me, not to mention the damage you've done to my reputation. I've lost a number of my very important clients due to this.
Mark should have been concentrating on his character, but he was in rehearsal, you know, but he was doing art directing.
There was one point, because we had practiced and both of us were getting it right in rehearsals, and then Keith kept forgetting his lines when the camera was on, but eventually he got them fine, did them well. Then we sent him off because we thought we can't really keep him waiting, so Chris stood in for Keith when I was doing the lines. And I was fine when Keith was there, doing sort of when it was shooting Keith, but I kept forgetting my lines when it was me being shot.
And again, I was trying to do like 6 million jobs, and Chris was labouring around and doing sound. So there were 3 of us, and that includes, you know, the cast, trying to get this professional looking scene. It was hard. It was There was knackering.
At the end we had to do some quite messy special effects, which was blood splurting all over the back wall.
We had to blow his brains out and give him makeup on the back of his head. It looked like his skull had exploded.
Again, the old washing up liquid bottle came into use, and Chris wore this, he took all his clothes off, wore this bin liner as his little cover because he didn't want to get this fake blood all over him.
Look at that, very sketchy.
And he was crouched behind Keith, and basically it was a one take shot. We had to get it on the one take. And it was all a very scary, high tension moment. Action. Yeah, Chris squeezed this bottle and its blood spurted on the wall. Kinda looks okay, it wasn't ideal, but with the editing it's very quick cut, so it sort of gets away with it. And then me and Chris did the latex of the back of Keith's head for the gun exit wound, and we were quite proud of that, really.
The scene went pretty smooth.
We did get that all done in one day, which was a relief.
We almost pulled it off. We get away with it.
We had to go back to the windmills. We had one shot of Trevan when he shot Hurley. Myself, Simon and Mike went up there, and we went up very early in the morning, and Mike must have got up on the wrong side of the bed.
And the pasty monster arose.
He had this directorial image to live up to. I mean, if he hadn't have thrown a strop here and he hadn't have thrown a strop there, nobody would have had any confidence in him.
You expect everyone to sort of help out, really, and Simon was being a bit of a prima donna.
Oh, what's up with Mike? What's up with Mike? Bloody hell, I'm doing him a favour doing this.
But I wasn't getting any help. I wasn't getting any help putting up a tripod, putting up the camera, and he was larking about. It was just like...
I always like to increase the tension, me. You know, I think, you know, some interesting things come out of that heightened tension. I mean, I think you can get some damn good results when people are pissed off.
I was trying to keep them both sort of calm, trying to keep Mike from suddenly biting Simon's head off and Simon from winding Mike up.
The finest directors of our time have never been easy to get on with. And when he was on one, he wasn't easy.
We used, because he had the sack over his head, so I think we got a bit of beetroot. There's an old rotten beetroot. And I had these French bangers which are shoved into the beetroot. We made a little hole and lit that, and that blew out as him getting shot. It worked quite well. Got the shot of Simon, did these shots with run out of film, and again we didn't have all the shots we needed at the wind farm. So he headed back, dropped Simon off, wanted to get rid of Simon because he's been a bit of a pain.
On that day he was a git.
We were waiting on some film stock, and me and Mike were just sat outside the front of the house in total silence. So this was supposed to be fun making a film, and we were both pretty miserable.
That was a pretty horrible shoot that day, actually.
And we set off because we had these few shots of the sunset to get. We set off to try and get there, and as we were driving there, we were just like, shit, we're not going to make it. And we didn't. We had to come back. We didn't quite get the shots. I remember just both of us really pissed off, sat waiting for this film stock to arrive outside the front of the house. That was one day when I did think, shit, are we going to see this thing through or not? I did wonder that day.
A few days later, the trio were back, this time armed with plenty of film stock.
We returned to the wind farm, and it was much better circumstances than the one before. There were three of us there this time, myself, Mike and Chris, and we returned there, and it was actually a very, very easy shoot, that one. There was enough stock there for us each. Like Mike said, I've got enough stock, we can each have 2 or 3 shots that we want to do. So me and Chris had a couple of shots that we said, these are quite nice ones, and we got it. It was just really nice to actually have that scene nailed, apart from extreme close-ups, which would come at a later date.
It was June 1997. The main scenes shot during this period involved the female lead, Mitchell's ex-girlfriend Rachel.
So we advertised for an actress for the part. We got loads and loads of replies, but no one was quite right, and also we possibly need to pay them at least expenses.
We thought, Christ, we can't afford to put them up. They're going to have to pay for their own transport down here. It would have felt pretty bad about it.
In the end, we found out a friend of ours had actually done drama and was a bit of an actress on the side, so we used her, and she was actually really good for the part.
We used Sophie because we knew that we could abuse her. basically. She's a pretty girl, so she could play a lead quite easily. And she had a bit of acting experience, I think, from school or something like that.
She'd got A-level drama, so she was far better qualified than, say, myself, Chris or Simon for acting.
But she was quite keen, although I think we had to convince her a little bit that it would be a good thing for her. Although I think she was quite embarrassed shooting a lot of it.
No, not really. It was just that was the first bit of kind of acting, and acting just sort of, the other bit was kind of trying to act scared, which is hard enough in itself, but that was just kind of trying to act something. I'm not sure what it was, normal. and it was quite hard, really, never having done it before, and feeling sort of fairly embarrassed because you're with mates.
But she turned out good. She was really good.
So safe. How do you feel about stabbing Mikey Barnes?
I refuse to do this bit of it.
But there were scenes that involved the in the cellar, which obviously involved some torture and some blood splattering around and all sorts of gore, and it would be hard to convince like an actor or an actress who we weren't paying a substantial amount and feeding pasties to actually take this on.
They might have been a bit unnerved, especially when they just saw 3 blokes and I thought, hang about, I don't like this.
Action. They should be trying to get you or something.
Perhaps, yeah.
That's fine.
Be edited up anyway.
Right,
I suppose what their reasoning behind using me was that it did look a bit dodgy, and I can imagine if someone had, they'd managed to get somebody and they'd come down, that would have been very dodgy indeed. But for us, it was more funny, and I think really clever editing has made that look how it was meant to look. But at the time when we were doing it, we were just laughing, and I can't imagine how they could ever have got enough to make it look scary. I think that's probably the one I remember most, and that mainly because of Mike Barnes. It was his American accent, I think, that did it for me. It just came out the woodwork every now and then. And I think he makes a really good hard man, actually. He is quite frightening. Apart from being enormous, he was quite frightening.
Oh, also, there's a thing as well that she was buried at the end.
We buried her in the back garden for the final shots of the windmill. We had to get some shots of her underground where I pull her, and so we buried her pretty much sort of in a bin bag and with her face in mud, and I was sat over her.
We could have made up a mask to look, at a fake Sophie's head that would be buried under the ground. Effects abilities aren't that good, so we kind of always knew that we'd probably have to bury the actor literally bury the person under the soil to get that last shot.
She didn't moan about doing that. We also covered her in fake blood. Didn't moan about that at all.
The smell of that blood, that was just disgusting, and it didn't come off for days afterwards.
Idiot.
The Eddie Dream sequence was also shot at Simon's flat the next day. The dummy was used yet again, this time doubling up for Mark's chest. The shoots went incident-free. Simon even cooked for them when he came back from work. That was the only catering during the entire film.
Fuck off out of my kitchen! Fuck off out of my house!
Look what he's doing to that pepper.
Yeah, that'll be your pepper next time. You like chilli, don't you?
He flips into Javan so easily, it's terrifying.
Yeah.
There was various effect shots, which basically me and Chris would be the fatigue special effects boys, and it was just trial and error really.
For all these shots, our trusty mannequin was used as a kind of stunt double.
We had 2 dummies and they were just priceless really.
All those shots took hours, and it soon added to our shooting time. So although we had a camera for a week, it was a bit like doing animation. You might get 1 shot a day.
All the close-ups of the hand going in the stomach split and the corkscrew were all done in the back garden of this house.
Quite a lot of gory effect really, and I think at the time we probably thought, oh, they're not that gory, they look like fake blood and everything, but actually when we had the premiere of the film, a lot of people said it was quite disturbing, which was a bit of a surprise to us.
We thought it might look really dodgy, but it actually, as it turned out, again because it's edited so tightly, it works quite well. The lighting was really good. Mike just had a redhead, I think it was, or a blonde, and got the lighting. It just looks bang on really. I was amazed actually when I saw the rushes. You wouldn't really realise that it was done for about 40 miles away or whatever in a back garden.
Another shot was Heaver getting his head bricked in.
And that was done in mine and Mike's back garden. We got some stones from the River Taff, some bits of grass and that, just put loads of fake blood on it. bit of latex over the head, then I just smashed it with a brick and it shot all close. Again, it's weird seeing that because people are like, oh, that's a bit harsh, you didn't need to show it up in extreme close-up, getting split as well. And all I can see is remembering me hitting it with a brick in the back garden, and so it doesn't have any sort of horror to me at all because I just think, oh, it looks like a dummy's head getting hit, but obviously it works, which is really pleasing.
So we had a corkscrew going into Travant's neck.
It's only on screen for about 3 or 4 frames, but it sells the shot, sells that sequence really well. But to actually get those 3 or 4 frames must have taken 5 or 6 hours of work. It involved clay and building a fake neck.
And I just looked at it and thought, there's no way that's going to convince anyone that that's his neck.
Simon Spray's neck, if you can believe that.
We made a plasticine kind of bubble with cling film and tomato sauce and coffee inside it, which was stabbed by the corkscrew.
We had 2 takes of it. The first take I stabbed and I missed the blood package.
The blood trickled out and didn't go anywhere, and then the second one just exploded and went everywhere.
Splattered out and went straight in my eye.
It was a good squirt.
The dummy head getting shot when Ross and Al come in. Myself and Chris, we had the dummy and we chopped it up. Chris did most of this actually, he did a really, really good job on this. Chopped it up and then filled it in, stuck it back together very loosely with the super glue, and then Chris filled in all the gaps with this polyfiller stuff, and then we painted it, put it up, put it in the strobes, and I had these bangers, these French bangers, and shoved one of them in there and it blew it up, and it looked great and it worked really well.
It was good fun, but at the same time it started to really slow down the whole shooting process.
Most of the effects, I think, yeah, on the whole they worked really well.
August 1997, and the Fairs back in town.
But initially we thought this was going to be the last shoot of the film. We had to go back to the fairgrounds. We didn't complete it the first year. So we went back to the fairground, we were using a Bolex again, and we got all the shots that we thought were missing from the first one, because Michael storyboarded it, so he was confident that he'd got all the missing footage. And he jokingly said, oh, this time next year we'll be back. And we all went, oh, very funny, Mike, don't say that, because it might actually turn out true. And it did turn out true, so the egg was certainly on our faces then, because we really didn't think we would be back there 3rd year round, but we were.
The garage scene was done on a Bolex, which is clockwork. You wind it up and you get about 20 seconds of a roll on it. What we didn't anticipate though was the fact that the fluorescent lighting interfered with the shutter.
Any light would go through the screen as a line.
A kind of a streaking effect. And when we first saw it, I think we were all really quite disappointed and thought that we might have to shoot it again. We cut it together with all this strobing going on in the scene, and it works really well with the sound. So it's one of those things that, you know, it's a mistake, but a mistake becomes an effect, and it works really well.
Chris Buxton, one of the vital crew members, was also a writer for the magazine Total Film. He wrote a double-page article for the magazine's Independence Day feature.
It's a 2-page article, great bit of coverage, but we hadn't seen any of the rushes at this stage, so we're all very cautious with what we said, and I was actually the chief culprit of not selling it very well.
Mark said that it might be the biggest piece of shit ever made, which I kind of realised later wasn't the best way to go about selling your product.
When the article came out, it was used as a main quote.
It wasn't an article we could ever send out to potential buyers, because they'd say, Christ, this guy's a producer and he's saying it might be crap. Even your mates, don't trust him, because they'll do anything to get good copy.
One of Mark's grandparents died and he got some inheritance money. He spent this on getting all the rushes back.
Eventually we got the rushes back, and there was just piles and piles and piles of them.
When I've shot student films before, usually you get dodgy shots that come out or haven't come out properly, or are underexposed or overexposed. I saw the rushes and I was over the moon about them. I was really chuffed that everything had come out how I imagined it, how I looked through the eyepiece. I thought it was fantastic. Also, I thought the sequences were working really well. Even though I hadn't edited them, you can kind of edit them together.
I couldn't see the great shots or anything. All I could see was the bad acting, and I couldn't see how it was going to cut together or anything, and I was basically horrified with what I saw. I just thought, what a waste of time, money and effort.
I was really shocked actually to find out that Mark was really upset by the rushes.
I think it was probably the shock of seeing yourself.
Seeing yourself on screen as well can be a bit, oh no, what have we done? I think Mark in particular was quite despondent.
I was devastated, I've got to say. I just thought, shit, we're doomed here, this is never going to work. Saw Mike the next morning and he said, oh, what do you think of the rushes? And he was always really upbeat, and I thought, he must have thought it was okay.
Asked him what he thought, and he said he thought they were shit. That was quite disappointing.
And I said, well, I don't know, what did you think? He said, I'm really chuffed, it's all in focus, it's all come out okay. I said, yeah, it's all come out, but the acting's shit. Then Chris Buxton came round and we watched them all again, and him and Mike going, oh yeah, that'll cut together really well.
When they were cut down a little bit, even just, taking the takes that had gone wrong out, we realised we had some quite strong stuff there.
Obviously when Mike gradually edited stuff together, you could see how the scenes were working, but the initial stuff was just the horror, I think, of seeing yourself on film was quite devastating, and that's all I could see was that and some dodgy acting. So never watch the rushes if you're an actor, I don't think.
August 1998. Once again, the Fairs in town.
1998, the third year in a row we were there.
The third fairground shoot went really well, but this time we went prepared. The second shoot went a lot better, all the shots had come out. There still wasn't enough footage for it to work as a sequence.
There's a lot of shots missing because the first footage when we'd seen the rushes, it was crap really. It was very grainy, much darker. The second lot was okay, it had the weird blurry effect again where it was all lines, but it sort of worked. It actually looked okay.
Because we were shooting on the hoof, it was difficult to actually get those parts glued together properly. So I kind of went back and on the third year and realised that it would be better not to go with a storyboard at all, shoot a lot of footage.
I was being an extra in a film called Slappers, and there's a guy there who had a camera. I asked him, I said, is there any chance you got a set of prime lenses we could borrow? He said, yeah, as long as you get insured. I bought some film stock off him as well. He had a lot of short ends from this film.
Thankfully we had a fantastic camera with a prime lens. It was absolutely pin sharp. We were 500T stock, which just reacted really fantastically to the natural light that was coming off all the stands.
Mike shot loads and loads of footage, maybe even shot almost a reel, I should think, just one of me going through all the fair, and he was just sort of running around me 1 minute in front of me. I don't know how he managed to hold the camera because he was like this sometimes, and it's quite a weighty thing. So he did a lot of me, and then he did the same with Simon, walking through and running through. But I do remember the bit where Simon rugby tackles me before I have the fight with him. God knows how many takes we did of this. We must have done it about 10 times, and I was running and we'd either be too far away or too close, and we did it loads of times, and he was loving it. Being sort of there. There's quite a crowd watching us actually. There's some policemen stood there loving it as well, watching what was going on. But every time we tried running towards and doing it in one, we'd either slide into the camera or we'd be too far away, it wasn't really working. I think he took great delight in putting me through that one with Spreem and jumping on top of me.
In that sequence now there are a few Rolex shots for the first 2 years, but the majority of that came from the third shoot.
No one looked at the camera. I was amazed when you saw the rushes, when we got the rushes back from this. No one was sort of waving at the camera like normally if you have a camera. It was a big camera as well, SR2, and we'd been in with the Bolex and people were waving, but with this no one really looked at it or waved at it or anything.
When we got rushes back, we were really pleased with it. Thankfully we had enough footage and it worked.
The lads decided the fight at the weir between Eddie and Mitchell needed extending. They shot this using the same equipment. They also did a shot of the gun falling into the water using a fish tank in Mark's back garden. This shot was cut from the final edit. A shoot on the London Underground also took place. Mark and Mike went during the week.
We did it totally guerrilla style. Probably shouldn't say this because we'd probably get billed for it. We nicked a poster off the Underground just to get it for size, and then Mike made up a little fake carriage which looks really good and chopped the poster in half, put it either side of the fatigue poster, which he did. So that works really well.
As Mark drove to London, Mike filmed driving and road shots on the way there and on the return journey back to Cardiff. The boys had a big debate on whether or not to shoot a title sequence because it was going to cost £10 to get a bullet engraved. Thankfully, they decided even on their tiny budget they could afford this. Mark and Chris went to Cardiff University to get video footage and photographs from an electron microscope. Then a friend put the images together to give the completed bullet image. Mike got the use of a rostrum in chapter, and Mark and him spent a long day animating the bullet images. During 1999, they did several more shoots.
An additional shoot of Mitchell and Rachel in the bathroom was one scene shot. Sophie had travelled to Australia for a year and was back, so they shot the scene in Chris's bathroom. The scene ended up being cut from the film. Rachel swallowing the diamonds was also shot. This footage did make the final cut. More night driving shots were filmed by Mark. While Mike drove in his shades, unable to see where he was going, Mike almost hit the central reservation.
It was unfortunate, but it was the way it worked out. It was the only person that could actually edit the film was myself, for logistical reasons as much as anything, really. It started off very enthusiastically, but I didn't quite realise, none of us realised how long it was going to take.
The sound was a real pain in the arse. It was a much bigger job than I think the three of us anticipated.
We had this old Nagra which ran at every speed apart from one consistent one.
So it was almost impossible to sync it up. A lot of the time there's just me, Mike and Chris as cast and crew. Mike would be on the camera and me and Chris would be acting in the scene, so the microphone would literally just be in the corner out of shot, and so the sound quality was absolutely abysmal. No!
So consequently, we had to record just about every sound throughout the whole film. Mike had done a rough cut of the film, so we looked through all of that, looking at every sound there was in it.
Me and Chris had mini discs at this stage.
We worked our way through the film, recording the sounds, handing them to Mike. He'd lay them onto the picture and tell us if they worked or not, and if they didn't work, we'd go out and get more sounds. Everything had to be re-recorded.
Running jacket movement from the front.
Putting the cup down.
Running jacket movement from the side.
Unscrewing the bottle.
Running at jacket movement at night.
Breathing.
Running jacket movement from below, to cut with every shot. And we give Mike this blooming disc with about 20 minutes of running jacket movement. He's probably thinking, Christ, these boys are going a little bit stupid here. So I think we went a bit overboard on that.
Because the film's complex, it's made up of lots of shots. There's lots of different possibilities, lots of different variations in editing. To explore all those and make sure you've got the right scene done in the best possible way takes a long time. Basically, because I was working at the time, I had to edit after work and at weekends, and that was okay for the first 6 months. But the picture editing alone took about a year and a half because it was done in a part-time way. And by the end of it, I'd had enough.
Chris and Mark asked lots of people if they would write some music for the film. They all said yes, but with no prospect of getting paid, understandably people put it to the back of their priorities list, so Chris and Mark ended up scoring the film themselves. It was a daunting task, so they got a roll of wallpaper and wrote down all the film scenes, marking off which ones needed music. They ended up writing music for almost every scene. Chris and Mark watched a rough cut of the film on TV next to the computer and tried to sync the music to this. Not the ideal way to do it, but they didn't have the technology for any other method. Mike would then lay the music over the cut footage. He often put music over different scenes, but as long as it worked, the three were happy. At the end of 1999 through to the start of 2000, the guys had a few magazine and newspaper articles, plus the odd TV interview. They also had a website designed by a friend. Golwg, a Welsh language media magazine, gave them a 2-page spread, and Chris was the cover boy. Another article appeared in Wales on Sunday that was written by a friend of Mark's.
Don't blame me for what follows.
They also had an interview on BBC Choice. This interview had come about because HTV had commissioned the boys to make a documentary. They discovered the trio planned to go to Cannes on a promotion push and wanted them to make a programme. This was great news, as it paid for the trip and gave them a bit of much needed cash. The problem was, once out there, the lads quickly discovered their tiny budget film was like firing an elastic band at a tank. There was no way they could compete against the thousands of films with multi-million-pound budgets. June 2000, the trio were shooting again. Mike had decided the phone box scene wasn't working. They were given some free film stock and assured it was fine. The phone boxes had changed their design again. Apart from that, the shoot went well. But when the rushes came back, the footage was unusable, and they had to do the scene yet again. This time, they nailed it. Another addition was a character to meet Eddie at the weir. They used the actor Simon Ludders, who gave his time for free. He was very unimpressed by the lack of crew and catering.
He was going, what's this Mickey Mouse production? We said, that's exactly what it is.
But the shoot was short, not really long enough for him to build up an appetite. In November 2000, the documentary Fatigue in Cannes is shown at the International Film Festival Wales. Then, the following April, it was screened on HTV. It was on at prime time Friday evening and got pick of the day in a couple of papers.
Hi, I'm Michael Barnes. I'm a filmmaker working in Cardiff.
Mike had an interview on Young, Gifted and Broke, begging for help.
We need an Avid suite, we need a dub, and we need a print. If there's anyone out there that can help us at all with any of that, then please contact the show.
They got zero response. August 2001, unbelievably they decided to shoot again, a whole 5 years after the first day's shoot.
I just knew it needed another scene in there, and I was really worried when I was going to say to Mark that actually, I know I said before that we'd finished shooting, but really we haven't, because I think we should do this.
I remember him really quite sheepishly saying, "Oh lads, I think we might have to shoot again." I think he thought me and Chris said, "Oh, piss off, no, it's got to be alright now."
So I put the script in front of Mark.
I just said, "Yeah, okay," and Chris was like, "Yeah, cool."
They had a friend who owned a jewellery shop, and Mike was living with the actor Phil Babbitt, who said he'd help out.
My main concern with it was that I felt I looked quite a bit older than I did in the film, but it's a very quick scene and I'm not in it much.
We did it 5 years later, you know, it was kind of, we come this far, another couple of months work waiting for the rushes to come back and recut into the sequence. It isn't a big problem, is it? So we did it, and it was done, and it worked a hell of a lot better. It just sort of glued the whole film together.
The trio filmed the very last shots at Chapter, and fittingly they were of Mike going mad throwing CDs and books off a shelf in Rachel's flat. Mike took 5 years of frustration out on the books and CDs. As he flung them about, one of the CD cases hit Chris, cutting him just below the eye, an inch higher and he could have lost it. Despite this, it's officially a wrap. September 2001. Mike asked Chris and Mark for any opinions on edit changes.
About 5 years on, we were just assembling the final cut.
He came to where it was pretty close to what he thought was going to be final edit, and he said, "Any opinions, lads? I want to know what you think should be changed, if anything, because as far as I'm concerned, this is pretty close to it."
Mark sent me this long list of changes he thought I should make. To be honest, it was a bit of a kick in the teeth.
I had quite a few things that I thought should be either in or out or whatever. They're all pretty minor.
It was like he thought it was shit or something, I don't know.
And I said this to Mike, and he took it very personally, which, I just felt he wanted my opinion, so I said it. It wasn't like a criticism, because as far as I was concerned, he was the director and editor, so he was going to have final cut, whatever. But he asked for the opinion, so I gave it to him. Whether he agreed with it or not, that didn't really matter. It's going to be his decision, but I had to say my opinion.
I felt, upset about it, and I also felt pretty angry about it as well.
That was a bit of tension there for a bit.
I'd spent an eternity trapped in his edit suite, talking years.
He'd been working on this thing for God knows how long, stuck in the edit room, hadn't really been out at the weekend.
I missed 2 summers because of it, literally. Didn't really go out at all. Became this kind of white pasty person who never saw the light.
And then to have someone say, "This is wrong, this is," maybe like 30 things, although they're very minor, but have someone saying all that, you'd get on your defensive anyway. I could see why I was like it, but he asked for my opinion and I gave it.
I guess I did take his comments a bit too much to heart, but I was kind of really close to it at that point when you're just editing with it all the time. And I knew every shot, every edit. I was really worried that they thought I made a complete balls up. When I got that page of criticism through, it seemed to confirm all my fears really, that they just really hated it.
There are scenes that were in it up until that point that I thought probably would stay in it, and once I saw that they were out, the whole thing worked so much better.
But later on we sat down and discussed it. I kind of quickly realised all these little comments and stuff they were tiny changes really.
Like he agreed with some and he didn't agree with others.
So when we came to the actual end of the edit and that was finished, I think Mark was pretty much happy with it, and there was 2 or 3 things that he would have probably included in the way of individual shots, but to get that kind of consensus between 3 people on an edit is pretty unheard of, so I think we were all really pleased that we were all thinking alike and it came out to everyone's satisfaction.
During November, Mike added the finishing touches to the sound and picture. Chris and Mark promoted the film. Mark made lots of fake thumbs to send to all the magazines and newspapers. He wanted people to notice these, and at one point thought about putting meat in them so they would stink, fooling people into thinking they were real. Mike and Chris advised him against this, so he put a chicken bone in instead. Unfortunately, this was at the height of the anthrax scare after September the 11th, but they still worked in getting good coverage in the local press. The week before the festival screening, the boys had a cast and crew show in Chapter Cinema 2, inviting everyone they could find who had helped out with the film. Mike was also interviewed by HTV News, and with the numerous flyers placed around town, they hoped to get a reasonable crowd for the official premiere at the International Film Festival of Wales.
Plenty in the store there.
On the festival's opening night in Chapter Cinema 1, the screening was sold out. The film then screened at various festivals around the world, including Raindance, where it was nominated for Best British Feature, Silver Lake in LA, Great Lakes, also in America, where it won Best Narrative Feature.
Oh no!
It had 2 screenings at the Victoria International Film and Video Festival in Canada, and also showed twice at the well-respected Brussels International Festival of Fantastic Film and the Cynogen Horror Thriller Festival in Luxembourg. The film was picked up by Ion New Media for distribution in Germany, and sales agents from America's Paragon Film Group are representing the film for world sales.
The whole thing was done as a band of friends getting together to do a project that they all believed in and they all wanted to see finished.
Did you think the film would ever get finished?
No, I didn't think that they would ever finish it.
We finished the film and I'm really proud of it.
I think it's brilliant and I'm really, really proud of what we've done.
Hopefully it inspire other filmmakers like El Mariachi inspired us. That'll be fantastic.
Even if we don't look back now, but say in a few years' time when we look at it, we'll be like, bloody hell, what we did there was a really impressive piece of work.
No, nobody was there for any selfish reason. They were all there to help everybody else live their dream.
Is there anything else you can think of?